This isn't your run-of-the-mill display board. It's magnetized. I'm going to take this off just because I'm not a psychopath. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a tournament display board. But wait, there's more. That's right, it's magnetized. So I even magnetized this monolith, but I'm not going to flip it upside down with the monolith because I don't want this to come off. It'll stay there, you know, if I tilt it, but it's not. I don't want to tilt it the full 90 degrees without it. It might fall off, but the smaller models, they'll stay on there just fine. To build this display board, you'll need the following materials: a cork bulletin board, which you can purchase really cheaply at Walmart. I think this was like $12 or so. You'll also need some cork sheets, which you can get at any craft store, some construction adhesive, some regular PVA glue, construction sand or your basing material of choice, some spray paint, some acrylic craft paint, magnetic sheet metal, which you can get at a hardware store. For tools, you'll just need some tin snips, which I also got at the hardware store to cut the sheet metal, and a tape measure. So starting off, I just opened up the bulletin board. It came with some tacks. I pulled those off. And then I measured the size of the area. And started to cut out the sheet metal to fit directly over the top. Now I wanted to make this a little bit more interesting than just a flat board. So I decided to raise the corners using some more cork sheet. So I cut the sheet metal appropriately to fit on top of those corner pieces. This piece of sheet metal is a bit oily, so I cleaned it off with some isopropyl alcohol. This will be important so that the glue and primer will adhere to the sheet metal in later steps. Next, I took some construction adhesive and carefully spread it across the entire board and glued down the sheet metal. I placed some weights on top to help it adhere to the cork and let it dry for about an hour or so. Coming back, seeing that it was all dried and glued down, I went into the next step, which is priming the whole board using some cheap Rust-Oleum spray paint primer. Now, one thing I would recommend doing, which I did not do, would be to go around the frame of the bulletin board and sand it so that the primer from the spray paint will adhere to it much better. It has a very glossy finish and the paint doesn't really like to stick to it very well. So after the primer dried, I went over the entire surface with PVA glue. It actually used up quite a bit of glue, but I spread it around evenly with my hands until the entire surface is covered, and then I went about just sprinkling on some construction sand. Now this stuff you can get at Menards or Home Depot or any other home building material store, and it's usually about $5 or so for a 20-pound bag, so all the construction sand you'll ever need. After the board is fully covered in sand, I let this sit overnight to dry. After the sand had dried onto the board, I just did a quick magnet test to make sure that with the layers that were applied to the metal, it was still magnetic enough, and it looks like it is. So, time to move on to paint the board. Now, because I want to use this display board for several of my armies, potentially, I wanted to go with a very neutral, earthy tone. I find that the earthy brown gray tones tend to blend the best with any base that you have, depending on how your army is based. So I went for a very dark brown. So I just mixed up some cheap acrylic craft paints, some brown and some black, until I got a nice burnt umber color, a little bit of water, and I went over the entire surface with a brush and painted it until it was all mostly covered. It's okay if the paint doesn't fully cover because of the construction sand underneath, because it's all going to be gray and brown anyway, so it'll just blend together nicely. Next, I went over the top with a dry brush of some lighter brown, kind of like a brown gray tan color. And then I just mixed in some gray to lighten it up and did a whole nother dry brush over the entire thing. So if you're making this on your own, you can just start dark and work your way up with some dry brushes until you get a nice texture and coloring that you like. Lastly, I painted the frame around it black, which I did off camera. I was originally going to keep it brown with the board, but I decided that black would look better. And last but not least, you can't forget the magnets. Now these magnets, I believe, are 10 millimeters by 2.6 millimeters, which should be just tall enough to fill in the gap at the bottom of your typical miniature base. I'll be sure to put a link in the description of the magnets I used, as well as any other materials that you can purchase online to make one of these display boards at home. And there you have it, tournament display board that's going to keep your models in place as you move around. So if you're weaving your way through the crowd, your models are safe and sound, they're not going anywhere. Now this right here is 1,000 points in neck rounds. These immortals are standing in for some death marks, which I have to paint up, but this is pretty much my list that I'm bringing to Adepticon. My cousin Luke, he's coming with me. We're doing a doubles tournament. He's got his 1,000 sons that are going to fill up the other half of this board. So I think there's still plenty of room for some more army. It's kind of spread out as it is. So this is a good sized board for 1,000 points, 2,000 points. Compact enough, but spacious enough to kind of showcase your army when you go to a tournament. Because a lot of tournaments have painting competitions, and having a good display board really helps boost your army in that regard. Well, I hope you like this video, and if you like what we're doing on this channel, please like this video, leave a comment, feedback on this video. It helps me know that you like this kind of thing. If you've seen a couple of these videos and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button. We're still a very small channel and we're trying to grow, so any support that you give us really helps the video get boosted and shared around within the YouTube algorithm, so more people like you can see these videos. So yeah, let me know what you think of the display board, and if you're gonna make one on your own, what you would do differently or what you would keep the same. Well, that's all we got for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.